Hi guys! This weekend I attended a huge 17th century reenactment event in Groenlo, which is a little village in the eastern Netherlands. So first of all, I just want to quickly give you a little history to explain why that event is held there every 2 years. So the Siege of Groenlo, or Grolle as it was called at that time, was a battle in the 80 Years' War, which, as the name suggests, was a really long, drawn-out affair between the Kingdom of Spain and the United Provinces of the Netherlands, and it kind of lasted from the mid-16th century up to the mid-17th century. King Philip II of Spain was kind of the hereditary ruler of this sort of area that now includes the modern Netherlands and Belgium. But at some point, the sort of inhabitants of that area started to get sick of Spanish rule. They thought they were being taxed way too much, and there was also a lot of tension because the religion in that area was really shifting away from what was going on there in Spain, and the Spanish really cracked down hard on people who had different ideas. So basically, over the course of the 80 Years' War, the Dutch and the Spanish fought a series of back and forth battles and sieges for control of the Low Countries, and the Siege of Grolle was one of those conflicts. It was not a very big city, but it was in a strategically important place in the eastern Netherlands, and it was fortified, so in 1627, the two sides came to blows there. Now, the Spanish initially occupied Grolle, so the Dutch, under the command of this guy, Prince Frederick Hendrik, came to try and kick them out. Now, what they did first was dig a kind of series of trenches and earthworks around Grolle, which was already fortified, a circumvallation it was called, and the point of that was basically to keep the Spanish defenders in, but also make it easier to prevent any kind of Spanish armies that might show up from relieving the siege too easily. The Dutch forces arrived on July 20th, and the Spanish forces in the city did manage to hold out for quite a while, but things eventually just didn't go their way. The Spanish did indeed send a relief army under this guy, that's Hendrik van den Berg, and he brought a lot of guys, but he didn't really lead a very effective attack, and the Dutch were able to drive him off. And then not too long after that, the Dutch attacking forces managed to blow a hole in the walls surrounding Grolle, and that made the city pretty indefensible. So a peace treaty was signed pretty quickly after that, and the whole thing ended in about a month. It was over by August 19th. These days, Groenlo is really just a sleepy little town, but surrounded by a lot of 17th century fortifications. In 2005, they decided they would start recreating the siege using a whole bunch of reenactors, and the event has basically been going on now pretty much every 2 years since then, and the number of people attending has just grown and grown. So this year it had actually been 3 years since the last reenactment, and the reason was that Groenlo is also the sort of birthplace of Grolle beer for all of you beer lovers out there, and the brewery basically told them if they waited an extra year to do the reenactment, they would give them a whole bunch of extra money and support, because this year is sort of the 400th year anniversary of Grolle's founding. And I mean, really, who's going to say no to that? It meant the event could be a lot larger. There were over 50 reenactment groups attending this year and over 1,400 reenactors. The fighting itself takes place over the span of 3 days, and it happens on sort of a purpose-built battlefield just outside of the town, where they've set up earthworks and entrenchments for the soldiers to fight in and around. Daily battles usually last around 3 hours all told, and consist of the Spanish forces advancing towards the Dutch position attacking for a while, and then eventually retreating back toward their starting position to kind of represent a failed sally. The fighting, though, is pretty free-form. It doesn't really follow a strict schedule, and every year that I've been, it's been slightly different how it's happened and where it's happened, and it also varies from day to day. One thing I can say for sure is there's an awful lot of small musket and cannon fire coming from both sides. It's really noisy, so I really recommend, if you're going to stay for a while, bring some earplugs. It's also fun to visit the town center because everyone living there really gets into the action. There's food and all kinds of like craft displays and stuff happening everywhere. The accuracy varies, but it's really nice to see the whole community sort of getting behind the event. I always enjoy visiting Groenlo, but this year was extra special because it was just so big and impressive. If you get a chance to attend the Groenlo event in the future, I really recommend that you do because it's just so well organized. The atmosphere is great. You're unlikely to see an event of this size and this sort of scale very many other places, and it just has an atmosphere that I think makes it really worth attending.